Alright, greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another Buster Wolf podcast. Today we are talking about the Streets of Rage franchise, beating people up in Wood Oak City, and we're going to go to the streets, cruise for a piece, and beat the ever-living shit out of every opponent we see. I am the host, Renegade Operative, and first we have Rad as one of our co-hosts.
Hey, if we did it for Final Fight last year, you know we had to bring the podcast back on the Streets of Rage.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this since this was like my first beat 'em up I ever played, and then second was like Double Dragon. Maybe we'll do a discussion on that in the future, who knows. But next we have Kaneki.
Grandpapa! I am so excited to talk about this franchise. This franchise alone is why I grew up playing video games in the first place. Introduced me to the video game world, as we all know.
Next we have Brandon.
Hello everyone, Brendel here, and I'm very angry in the streets.
Yeah, he's a very angry Indian wrestler who wants to beat people and skin them. So there you have it.
T-Hawk up in this bitch.
T-Hawk slammed them.
I was gonna say Darn Meister, but okay.
Next we have Nero.
What's up, guys? It's good to talk about Streets of Rage.
Drobed, introduce yourself, good sir.
Yeah, it's me, Drillbit. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about Streets of Rage, even though I'm not the most familiar with the franchise.
And last but not least, Parlor Wop. Introduce yourself. Wop. Is she dead?
I'm sorry. I thought you said someone else.
No, I was talking about you
everyone.
due to the massage earlier, but
I did. My back was killing me, so I had to get something done. But hi everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Nikki, and I'm here for the party.
all right, and we're going to go to the first question, which is sort of describing your first experience with the franchise and how did you get introduced into it. I'm going to let Kaneki go first.
How did I get into the series for the first time? Oh, you already read the question, right?
Yep, I did. That's the question.
Well, it all started when I was a toddler, and my brother introduced me to the Sega Genesis. And he was playing not Streets of Rage 1, but Streets of Rage 2. Ironic, because that's how I also got into Tekken. But anyways, Streets of Rage 2 was the first game that introduced me to the series, and I couldn't stop playing it. It was the only reason why I would even bother playing the Genesis in the first place. Sonic did not do it for me. It was this game right here, the series. And what stood out to me at the height of the popularity for these beat 'em ups? That's a good question. I can't even answer that, to be honest. But I'm glad that people, after all these years, still remember it and treasured it to this day.
Nikki, it's your turn. How did you get introduced into this franchise?
One of my friends had the Sega Genesis, and so whenever my brother and I would go to his house, he would always have like a new Sega game for us to play. And he said to us, "Hey, let's play Streets of Rage 1." And this was when we were like maybe 10, 11 years old or so. And we just had so much fun with the game. Yeah, it was just basically going over friends' houses, playing Streets of Rage. And if I remember, they were able to have 3 characters on the screen, or 2 characters or whatever, but we always played together. And I remember we always used to yell at each other whenever someone would accidentally press the police assist button at the wrong time. And then it was the music too. Like, we really enjoyed the music, and that will probably come in later, where I'll talk about how we used to just pause the game and just dance to the music instead of playing. But that's basically it.
I'm gonna go real quick because my answer is super basic, but essentially I believe my brother just had Streets of Rage packaged with his Genesis, I remember it was Mortal Kombat. Well, the first one. I fucking hate the MK1 convention, but that's besides the point. It was the first MK, then he had Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and then he had Streets of Rage and Eternal Champions. And all of those games are games I played the hell out of, but that's how I first got introduced into the series. Once I decided to say, oh, I'm finished with Sonic, I beat that game. What's this other game where these people are fighting folks on the front of the cover and they're in the streets? So I played it, and I remember the first theme, Go Straight, that stood out to me the most, where it was this crazy eccentric club music, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty hype. This is getting me like super excited, and it brought this whole energy to the rhythm of the game, which is why a lot of people really love the second one. So I kept on playing. It was hard as shit. Back in the day, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just punching my way through, and I didn't know that certain bosses had like a pattern, which is interesting for the game. And the more I kept playing, the more addicted I got to it. It was a very interesting and fascinating experience, especially after I got done playing that and going to the NES again and playing Double Dragon. It felt like a whole different enhanced mood, which is what that franchise needed, honestly, to stand out. I think that's what makes it stand out, is that they took a concept and they made it the best that they possibly could. And that is my experience with at least getting into the series for the first time. I'm going to let Brandon go next.
How I got into the series? Truth be told, I don't remember like as far as my earliest memory. 'Cause I know I played it before on one of my family members, like a little platform. I think it might have been a Sega I played it on originally. But what really got me into the series, solidified me, was playing it on PlayStation 3, like 13 years ago when Sega released like a bunch of games on PS Plus for free, and Streets Race 2 was one of them. I played 2 a lot. 2 was my jam. So that game got me into the series. But what stood out to me and had the popularity, truth be told, I'm not sure, but I might say the characters, because the characters seem more interesting than say Final Fight. Now, because I wasn't necessarily into Final Fight, still technically not, but yeah, like Streets of Rage kind of stood out a little bit for the characters, even though they're pretty simple, all things considered.
Nero, how about you? It's your turn.
Well, I got introduced to the game by playing it on like PS3 and 360. I actually have like 2 copies of the Sega collection that they had brought out like years ago when I started collecting games. The gameplay was pretty addicting. And then I went to play Streets of Rage 4 when it first dropped. It was a really fun game.
Drill, it's your turn. Oh, never mind. You were saying something there?
I was probably going to talk about the how the gameplay was compared to like Final Fight, but
Oh, go
maybe
ahead.
that's a question.
Good.
Let's see. I liked how you had the ability to tech throws. You had special moves. It was kind of like a mini fighting game. That's why I probably got into it a lot more.
All right, Goo Master, it's your turn.
But yeah, for me, I actually got into Streets of Rage. I think because of one of those Sega Genesis collections on like maybe the PSP back when I would just get random games to play. And I think Streets of Rage was on one of them. It was hard, but I thought it was kind of fun, just never finished it. And then I obviously, when Streets of Rage 4 came out, I played that along. And then started to go back on like the older ones once they started re-releasing them. Those were Streets of Rage 4 is probably like I would say the best one I've played so far, especially with how much content they've been supporting with it. Hopefully we do get another one.
And you're finished with this question, Drew?
Yeah.
Rad. Last but not least, how did you get like first introduced into the series?
I have to thank Sonic the Hedgehog for doing so, because I didn't play Streets of Rage when it originally came out. I didn't play it until Sonic Ultimate Genesis Collection for the PS3, because it had all 3 Streets of Rage games on it. You know your game is going to be special when the composer gets one of the first credits. He's right there on the copyright screen. You know the music is going to be something special. And as I'm sure you've heard from this podcast, it was. It definitely left an impression. But Streets of Rage was one of those games from the beat 'em up genre that you could easily show to your friends easily, because, hey, just walk forward, press buttons. It's one of the easiest genres in the world to play. So that's what really stood out to me. It's just, I can play this with my friends. I don't have to teach them much except, hey, here's the buttons. Beat the crap out of someone. And oh, Streets of Rage lets you do that in so many ways.
Yeah, beat him up, hit him with a pipe, smack him with a bottle. It's a lot of interesting weapon variety to that game too, that I think a lot of people just seem to tend to just overlook a little bit. Like, it, you could just, I like the first one where you can at least throw like these grenades that will pop into people's faces and you can stun them. So it's a lot of good stuff there with this game in terms of experimenting and making a playstyle, which is cool. But we're gonna move on to the second question, which I'm gonna have to pick like select people, because Streets of Rage 3 is something interesting. So it had a notorious release, and they had an extremely difficult Western version come over here to the stateside. However, Bare Knuckle 3 was an entirely different monster over in Japan, and it was actually the more fun game with some of the differences. So we're citing the regional differences between the two, and which one do you prefer? Brad, I want you to go first on this one, because I only played 3 for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, once I got my hand on the Japanese version, Bare Knuckle 3, I wondered, where has this been all my life? Because the plot is drastically different. The game is noticeably easier. The characters look like they do. None of these weird colors, like Axel wearing a yellow shirt. It felt like the mature man's Streets of Rage game. And it's obviously not as harsh. You can beat this game on easy if you want, and not be punished by Mr. Xbot laughing at you. But some of the plot changes here were just... In the American version, it's mostly about Mr. X wanting to replace people in power with robots, as you do, as was the 90s. Which is a lot better than the Japanese version, which starts with an explosion in the middle of a city. A radioactive explosion that killed thousands and injured hundreds of thousands. And that's how your game starts. With Axel tightening his headband, Rambo 3 style, and punching the screen. It's just... Boy, you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. I would say the Japanese version absolutely replaces the American version. It's sort of there's no reason to play American Streets of Rage 3 other than a mere curiosity. And in Streets of Rage 4, some of the plot elements of 3 are canon, Bare Knuckle 3. So yeah, all the more reason to just forget Streets of Rage 3 altogether. That's kind of all I have to say on it. Unless you wanted to go into plot detail.
No, I think that like answers most of it, because just going off of my experience, and I noticed the color differences between the characters, and then I was just like, okay, I'm getting to the point now where it's infuriating, because I remember getting to the bosses and getting absolutely destroyed in the original Streets of Rage, and I was wondering why that is. Why is this game like 10,000 times like more harder, and the strippers are just turning me into a piece of hamburger. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that the regional version was easier, different, and of course they had a lot of interesting changes. So I have like mods installed for the Sega Genesis collection on Steam, and I was just like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to install this and see how better it plays. And when I started, it was a huge difference. Most notable is the life system. It's a lot more generous in the Japanese version versus the Western one. And I was just like, okay, that's cool. And the enemies don't hit as hard, because I noticed that immediately. Like, they were taking off blocks of health when you were playing that game in the American version. And this one was like, okay, well, now we're gonna balance the game out. So if you have to play any version of this game, please make sure it is the Japanese version. Otherwise, you're gonna get your ass kicked if it is the American one. Kaneki, do you have any experience with this game in terms of Japanese and American?
I have, though. Mostly the American one, because that's the one I played mostly, and yeah, I would definitely not recommend playing that version unless unless you are really, really good at Streets of Rage, at least 3, to where you won't get hit or die a lot, because it's pretty much for people who wants like more of a challenge per se. It can be stupid at times, but it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, like it's meant for the people who are able to beat Ninja Gaiden 3 without losing all their continues.
Yep.
I'm not one of
Like
those
back
people.
when you were back when you were a kid, I guess you just don't care as much. You have so much free time that you can just keep playing it over and over again. But they literally did it just so people wouldn't just rent the game and beat it in the weekend.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but I just remember I after the stripper pole stage or whatever that is, that's when the game really started to become frustrating. So I just slipped on the Japanese version, and I'm like, okay, this is way better.
Yeah, it's like playing the Japanese Bayou Billy because that game's way easier on there compared to the American one.
Oh, okay. Nero, do you have any opinion on this whatsoever?
I haven't really played Streets of Rage 3 that much to form like a positive opinion or negative opinion on it.
That's fair. A lot of people have not, but I guess, the people that have, we kind of answered this a little bit. So we're gonna move on to the next question. So it's a little bit more open.
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the purple elephant in the room in Bare Knuckle 3. There's a boss fight missing in the American version.
Really?
So in stage 1, you know how you have Shiva on the boat?
Oh yeah,
and
you're right.
He's sending goons after you one after another, and then he
jumps off and yeah, he flies away. But sometime in the version that I think you're talking about, he actually gets off the ship and he fights you.
So in the Japanese version, it is an entirely different character.
Oh man,
This character is like purple hat, necklace, and all of that.
are you talking about the character in Hades?
His name is Ash.
Oh yeah.
And when the music starts changing into this distorted, weird, and he just sort of runs and skips across and I don't mean this harshly, in the most gay way possible. Just a general, a stereotype so offensive, he wasn't even included in re-releases. Not even the one that was on Genesis Mini 2. Like, that's how ashamed Sega is of this character. Supposedly, you could play as Ash if you game sharked, but man, he isn't even getting into Streets of Rage 4, let's just say.
So he got the poison treatment. Oh, I see.
Yeah, but see, poison is still around, and Ash is just, well, a pile of ash now. So I wanted to sort of bring that up as sort of a did you know? And also, it's kind of a little dark secret in Sega's library that they obviously don't like to talk about.
Yeah, I can see why it would not probably
Yeah,
fly over well.
if you had seen that walk animation, you would say, "What the fuck?" It's the combination of things.
And you can unlock
Yeah.
a kangaroo as well. in that game.
Maybe they could bring it back if they toned it down to just being a flamboyant.
I can't wait till question number 6.
Let me see. Yep, I see it right there. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one, which is our favorite character to play as. So, what is your favorite character in Streets of Rage? And it could be multiple because this is multiple choice. I'll let Kaneki go first.
Well, aside from the main homie, Axel Stone, the GOAT, the one and only, who was not only an ex-cop but also a video game man. The other characters I like playing as is Max, Skate, which, if I stand correct, I mean I could be wrong, but wasn't Skate in Streets of Rage 4 just in the background in the DLC?
I think so, but I do remember he's not playable except for his other variants.
Yeah, but Max was, which I was thankful for. But outside those two, you don't need a weapon for this man because he is the weapon. Anytime you pick up this character Shiva, it was a wrap for almost any difficulty in the game. He's like the cheat code of Streets of Rage. He's so fun. I'm surprised he's not modded into like this the recent Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 mod revision.
And that's your answer for favorite characters?
Yes.
All right, Nikki, it is your turn. Who do you love the most in Streets of Rage?
I think I enjoyed really playing with Blaze mainly because I liked how she was almost the perfect blend of like power and speed. I especially liked how she kind of felt like Chun-Li almost in a way with all the kicks and all the graceful moves and everything. So, and she kind of reminded me of Guy a little bit with how powerful and fast she was. When I say power, I mean she wasn't as powerful as the other two characters were, but it was good enough for me.
Brandon, your turn.
Well, number one is definitely Blaze. I've been a Blaze loyalist since 2. So every game that came out, which aka Streets of Rage 4, the only game that came out after 25 years or whatever. Yeah, Blaze was my go-to main character. But honorable mentions will go to his name is giving me Adam Hunter. Yeah, Mr. Kickboxer. His fighting style was beautiful. I never played as him in the original game, but his I guess you say rework was goated. I love playing as him, and I guess you could say Alex as well because he's a poster boy. He's still always going to be fun to play. Oh, speaking of which, though, I could be wrong about this, but I think one of Blaze's attacks in Street Rage 2 influenced one of Chun-Li's attacks in Street Fighter Alpha, which became a staple move. I think it was Kikokushin. At least how it was animated.
Oh, I forgot to mention, Rue is also my favorite.
Yeah. I am done.
Okay, I'm gonna go next. Well, obviously Axel is pretty cool. He does the grand upper and he does all these combos. I like Streets of Rage like 3 Axel a lot. He's very versatile to play with. And 4, as for other people, I did like Adam Hunter. He's I mostly I like him in 4 because I just found him way too basic in the other game that he was in, which is the first one. So yeah, he can just do all these green hand moves and catch people in the corner and beat them down. And I like that he had a dash this time around, really enhancing his moveset. And then for the other two people I liked, I'm gonna say Blaze because she's really fucking good in Streets of Rage 3, man. Her slide attack with multiple stars is just great, and I like that move she does where, well, I'll talk about it later, but it's something that she does with a katana that's just awesome. And then the last person is Max. I know he's like super slow. He's supposed to be like a tanky big boy, but the fact that you could just completely like grab a boss and demolish the ever living Christ out of him with body slams or wrestling moves, and you can, if you're really good at the game, you can stun lock somebody and kill a boss in the corner. That is the most fun I had with like the second game and 4, because you could just get them in the corner and just do whatever you want. The Zangief them, and they can't do a fucking thing. So those are my favorite characters so far. I'm passing the baton to Nero.
My favorite character obviously is Adam Hunter. I liked his moveset way better than like Axel or Blaze. But other favorite character is Estelle. When I was like labbing Streets of Rage 4, like she had like a whole bunch of like crazy combos and stuff like that that I really liked. Also, I would give third place to the main man, Axel Stone. I mean, he is the icon of the franchise, and I find like his character development is pretty decent, from at least at my end. So yeah.
All right, Drillbit, it is your turn.
Yeah, for me, obviously it's Streets of Rage 4 Blaze, because that's the character I labbed the most with and beat the game with. Honestly, she has a lot of cool combos, and yeah, also the Kikosho move is really good. And I didn't mess around with Estelle in the DLC, mainly because she actually has a lot of cool combos and stuff you can do. So they even had like a full-on training mode and combo trials for the DLC, which made learning the characters really fun. Been wanting to learn like the other characters like Axel and Adam though. Just need to get back into Streets of Rage 4.
Rat,
Yeah.
Rat, you are the final person here. What is your affinity for favorite characters?
So this decision went back and forth in my head up to right now. But when it came down to it, I'm a big fan of the one and dones of Streets of Rage, particularly Dr. Gilbert Zan. This old man robot dashes across the screen, shoulder charges into you, pokes at you with his like cyborg hand filled with electricity. Oh, and he doesn't use weapons in particular, knives, pipes, nothing like it. It becomes a ball of energy that he can toss at the enemy. When I was playing through the Streets of Rage 3 before I knew Bare Knuckle 3, Zan was the coolest part of it. And I hadn't really come to terms with that until I had replayed the Japanese version, because honestly, he saved my ass. Speaking of characters who saved my ass, my second place character, Cherry Hunter. In Streets of Rage 4, I was sort of struggling to get runs done on the harder difficulties, but Cherry came in clutch. She's one of the only Streets of Rage 4 characters that can run. She has a rushing knee that travels hella far, which means you can attack, evade the enemy, and just be on the other side of them. And not to mention her super move where she just Pete Townsend slides. Ow! And then you're just up against the corner, and then just the world's your oyster. Cherry's awesome.
Yeah, she is by far the coolest newbie. If you ever wanted to just stomp on somebody and do a Guitar Hero like combo on them, then you can completely do that with this character. I really liked her moveset and abilities, even though I got like a short time to play with her. Plus her like mountain punch is just so awesome when she does it, like especially if you're fighting in the dual mode. But we're gonna move on to the least favorites, the characters that we can't wrap our heads around, the characters we didn't like. We're going to do that. So, Kaneki, what is your least favorite character to play as for Streets of Rage?
Does the remake count?
Yes.
All right, Mr. X. Why? Because all you could do is hit people with your gun, and shoot at them is your special. That's it. That's all you can do with him. Next.
Okay, so I guess I'll go on this one. Oh, so who is particularly trash? Well, I know Mr. X, of course. I could never wrap my head around Skate, even though he's awesome. I feel as though I prefer people who do more damage, where he is like a lot more speed, but I do get it because he adds like variety to the game. It's just I never really got into that play style to begin with. I would greatly prefer Axel over him, but you know, I wouldn't say he's like one of the worst characters. And I mean, the kangaroo sort of got better as well over time, so I just think Mr. X and Skate are the only people I could not get into as characters. What about you, Nikki?
Give me a second. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a rather unconventional answer, but the answer would be when the cop comes out as the assist when someone presses the wrong button. Get that guy off the stage because nobody wanted him around, and you accidentally pressed the button, and now I'm pissed because you wasted it.
They kind of removed that, and I think they removed it in 2, so that's not even there anymore in that game. It's gone.
Right.
Because it made no sense in 1. There is a point where you are fighting on an elevator, going up a skyscraper, and yet this police cop with a bazooka, expert aim, manages to hit the top of the elevator, which is probably hundreds of stories up by now.
That's why they got rid of
it. Just made no sense, and I don't blame them for sacking it.
He's not human.
Well, that's my answer.
Well, you know, I guess that counts for something. God tier aim.
I guess because people are gonna listen to this podcast and say, "What is this idiot even talking about?"
No, that's fine. Like I said, they removed him in the second game, so it counts for something. But
it does.
Brandon, how about you? Character that you just can't wrap your head around or are disappointed by in Streets of Rage?
I'm gonna go with in 2 for Max Thunder. Particularly, I prefer the way I like to enjoy Streets of Rage in general is like have balance between speed and power. So I would say I would gravitate more towards like the Atoms, the Axels, the Blazes type characters. Whereas Max, at least in 2, I haven't played him in 4. I only touched Shiva because unfortunately I lost my save data, so I got started over. But yeah, Max didn't vibe well with me in Streets of Rage 2. So for him in particular, that's like my least favorite character. I will comment on 1 and 3, but I haven't played enough of those games. But to at least give an honorable mention, I would actually ironically give it to Adam in 1 because he's like the powerhouse, but also kind of slow and sluggish.
What about you?
And that's it.
What about you, Nero? Is there anyone you really don't like playing as in Streets of Rage?
I would say I'm just not interested in playing Max. Like, I just wanted to play like cooler characters. I mean, Max is a cool character, don't get me wrong, but it's just like his play style is way different from what I would normally play.
Damn, now I wish Hades was here because he's like everybody digging on the wrestler. Holy shit. Next up is Drill. What about you? Any character you really don't like?
Well, I mean, there's not any characters I dislike, but there was one character I didn't really vibe with in Streets of Rage 4 was I think like Adam's daughter. I forget her name.
Cherry Hunter.
Yeah, I don't know. She just didn't. I didn't like how her combos flowed, and she didn't really like vibe that well. Honestly, I prefer the ones that are able to hit more and have better combo flow. But there's not really any characters I dislike, just ones that I didn't vibe with.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Rad, you are the final person for this question. Characters you hate.
Skate.
Oh, you got the same answer as me.
It comes down to he's the stupid bratty kid, and his move list reflects it. even even when I was younger, I didn't like him that much. It's like you have cool guys, Axel, Blaze, Max the wrestler, and you have stupid bratty kid with a backwards cap. I never liked Skate. I never liked playing as Skate. And
So
it's ironic because of how much I praise Cherry, because Cherry kind of feels like the exact opposite. She's like the cool teenager. She's in a rock band, and she doesn't like this whole fighting thing. She just wants to rock her ass off, and she's the complete opposite of Skate in almost every way.
Yeah,
I do not miss the boy.
I feel like I could not wrap my head around him. He's not the worst character I've played with, but he's not the most enticing in terms of what people could do in the actual game, especially when you start getting characters like Shiva. That gameplay is lit when you play as that character. Holy fuck. But
Also, I do want to mention what Nikki said. The one cop in Streets of Rage 1. I will say he makes a glorious return in Streets of Rage 4.
Oh yeah, he does. I forgot about that.
Because everyone got surprised by backup requested, and then everybody marked because it's the dumb thing.
Yeah, Estelle gets to use him as like a power up, sort of.
Yep.
damn, so Nikki will not use Estelle. Got it.
Hold on. So, little fun bonus question here: can Estelle do that move if you play as her? Because I forget.
It's one of her specials.
Okay, good. I'm very glad to hear that.
But if you play survival mode in Streets of Rage 4, you can unlock enough. You can unlock where she doesn't use that. She has a different special entirely.
Oh shit. Okay. I'll definitely go back to Estelle when I get the chance, because I need to lab with her a little bit more. But we're moving on to question number 5. So, the best stage and the worst stage. The stage that is godsend, and the stage that basically makes you want to cry at night. Which is your favorite? Which is your least favorite? We'll go with Kaneki first.
The entirety of most of the Streets of Rage 2 stages is just chef's kiss, in my opinion. Perfection. Like, anytime you want to go back and look how the stages were from the old games, I would say Streets of Rage 2 nails it for the most part. Especially Streets of Rage 4 at the beginning, where they took an homage from not an homage, but the actual stage from stage 1 of Streets of Rage 2. It was just like, how can you go wrong with most of the stages? The worst stage, I would say the worst stage is probably the pole dancing one in Streets of Rage 3. Like, especially if not that I don't get seizures from playing in that stage, but it gives me a headache. Like, it's really annoying to play in that stage.
What about you, Nikki? Any favorite stages and least favorite stages in Streets of Rage that you recognized or noticed?
Well, definitely what was said before. The whole of Streets of Rage 2, I think, just did the stages really, really wonderfully. Of course, Streets of Rage 1, that was the one I played the most, so a lot of those stages are pretty recognizable to me. But I think Streets of Rage 2 pretty much took everything that 1 did and then perfected them even more. So I'm going to go with the whole Streets of Rage 2 for the first one. For the first question. The second part of the question would be the last stage in Streets of Rage 1, because believe it or not, I never beat Streets of Rage 1. I always died and got totally game over right in front of Mr. X's door. And I hate playing that stage because it always makes me think, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. So, yeah, Mr. X's office, I would say, building is my least favorite stage.
All right, I'm going to go next. Pretty much, I'm going to echo what everyone else has been saying. I think the entirety of Streets of Rage 2, every stage seems to be perfect. Especially, I think my favorite one, if I had to pick one, it would be the bridge stage. because it looks cool. It's very like
Oh,
simple.
stage 2?
Yeah, it's very simple and straightforward, and the way you go out of the truck and back into the street was well done, as well as fighting the boss on the jetpack. That was just great. 100%. The worst stage, any stage in Streets of Rage that has a fucking sky train, and I have to jump to avoid the hazard, and if I don't, well, and I'm fighting the enemies at the same time, I take like massive damage, and they grab me, and I get hit. I'm not a fan of how that's designed, because any slight error will get you killed immediately. It's fun to fight on those stages when you're fighting with friends, as we did in Parsec, where people were getting reamed by the train. But if you're on single player, it is annoying. So I'm gonna have to say any sky train with a hazard is probably some of the worst stages you will see. Next up is Brandon.
I actually need some clarification here. Are you talking about from a aesthetic standpoint or just playing it?
Both. I would say just both. You're the best and the worst.
Well, I do echo the sentiment for Streets of Rage 2, but I'm gonna do something a little different here. I'm gonna go with my absolute favorite stage is the streets in 4, from aesthetically and just playing on it. No, but if I had to narrow it down to the least favorite thing, I'm gonna actually narrow it down to stage hazards for any game. Stage hazard, especially playing the highest difficulty, sucks so much ass. Especially in like in 4, when you get into the swords, I believe, with all those
Pitfalls.
yeah, well, not pitfalls I could live with, but the puddles of like acid or whatever,
Yeah.
I absolutely hate those so fucking much.
Oh yeah, you
I
can't
can
jump
live.
if you get caught in them.
No, I can live without having those in my life for once. Like, just no stage hazard, please. Let me have some fun. Let me beat up people. I don't want to fight the environment. I'm here to fight the enemies.
I guess to add on slightly to that, the pitfalls in the first one, I think it was the bridge stage there. If you fall into them, you take 50% damage.
Jesus.
It's really fucking bad. Nero, it's your turn. Best and worst stages.
I'd say right now the worst stage I played at was the bar from Streets of Rage 4. I did not like those bikers just like headbutting me and like wound up fucking up the damn stage. My most favorite, I would say, the Bay Area in Streets of Rage 4. You could just knock people off. It feels really rewarding to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Drill, it is your turn, good sir.
But yeah, since Brandon took my answer for best stage, I'm just gonna copy that. It's still the streets because it is very. I think it's pretty iconic. Maybe not as iconic as the original Streets of Rage stage, but I still really like it a lot. Oh yeah. As for the worst, it's probably like the Chinatown from Streets of Rage 4, mainly because I don't like fighting those guys that just have a lot of super armor and they take forever to kill.
Are you talking about the monks or the people with the
Yeah,
yeah?
the big guys.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the worst enemy ever.
You know, you can barely combo them, and they have too much fucking armor. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of enemies that just tank everything. It just becomes really annoying to play.
Rat. Last but not least, what about you?
Best stage, Streets of Rage 4, Stage 6. It is an absolutely perfect stage. The way it introduces the karate enemies before you even get inside the main castle. As these enemies that you can't just button mash because they will counter the shit out of you and shame you. And then you go up 3 straight floors with a unique like spear weapon that you can stab enemies with back and forth and back and forth. And the floors keep getting harsher. Like there's one that's surrounded by a ring of fire and you're fighting like Muay Thai characters. And then once you get to the top of the tower, you fight Shiva. and it is my absolute favorite boss fight in the entirety of Streets of Rage because it feels epic. It's like on a sunset on top of a building, and like this tranquil theme is playing to up the seriousness of the fight. It's incredible. It's my most favorite stage in the entirety of the franchise.
I like
And-
how Drillbit's least favorite stage was Chinatown, while yours is Chinatown is favorite.
Yeah, that's funny to point out. Actually, a nice distinction.
And now I have the exact opposite. Streets of Rage 3, Stage 3. You guys don't like hazards? How about them constant throughout the first area? Barrels dropping down from the background to hurt you. They hurt the enemy, so it's okay, but they are constantly disrupting you. And as if that wasn't bad enough, you get chased by a fucking forklift in the second area, and you're obviously hurrying to bash through the concrete just so you can move on, and you forget that you can sort of backfist it, and it's like you're too late, so you take massive damage. Fuck that stage.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The construction site. That stage is pure cancer. Oh, well, we will throw that construction site right into the garbage for it to get nutted on, and we will continue on with the next question. So,
Stop.
someone was gonna point that out.
It would have been good if you said you were nutted on it. Next.
Well, we're gonna skip right past that. We're gonna move to the dusty old trail, and then we're gonna move to question number 6. So, did you ever play the infamous Streets of Rage remake from Bomber Games? If so, what is your review of that game? Kaneki, I want you to go first.
Oh boy, did I played it! Even after Sega took it down, people, the fans still managed to re-upload it to, the fan sites where people can play it. And from what I review of that game, I was like, this is the Streets of Rage remake people wanted for years. I'm talking years after Streets of Rage 3 came out, and this was the perfect homage to the fans who was into the series for so long. At first, I just don't understand Sega at the time. Why would they take it down? But then that, years later, they finally changed their mind and be like, look, because of this game, without this game existing, Ren, we would not get Streets of Rage 4. I shit you not.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, with the way it's tailored and how fast it plays, I don't think that. I think they were definitely looking at that. Yeah.
I'm going to spoil you for folks who have not played it, so if you don't want to hear the spoiler for the game, this is your chance to mute yourself or to mute the stream for a moment. You can kill people in this game. Yes, kill. How? Well, you unlock a certain, after beating the game, I want to say multiple times, but when you grind enough money, because there is in-game currency in that game, you will be able to unlock a certain mode where when you do another playthrough of the game, you can slice people in half with your weapons, one including the lightsaber of all weapons. This game took to a whole new level of fucking, replay value and everything in Streets of Rage.
Yeah, I played this remake, and for the people that don't know, they have the final version update, which has differing intro screen and a lot of fixes to the game.
Widescreen support, finally.
Yeah, widescreen support, everything that you need. It is a masterclass of taking the style and improving on it in every singular way, giving you multiple routes. It literally remakes 1, 2, 3 and adds in new stages as well at the same time. If you're talking about the idea of a definitive remake with the fact that characters from differing Streets of Rage games have universal run and roll and all this other crazy shit, then definitely check that remake out on PC. It is by far one of the most interesting takes on that franchise, and the way they enhance the gameplay, give you unlockables, characters, even they give you some translation stuff. So if you want bare knuckle stuff mentioned, you will get that. It's amazing.
Yep.
And like Kaneki said, you can also blow people up and kill them and use a gun in this game.
Oh
which,
yeah, you could use guns. I forgot.
which is quite interesting with the way they do it. So they have a lot of features. I would say
Oh.
is worth playing.
Let me say one more feature they added, which entirely make me get into this remake into the in the first place. You can create your own levels and stage into this game called the Streets of Rage Maker. What people have done over the years with the Streets of Rage Maker and remade certain games, like just imagine Axel Stone in the level of Battletoads cross Double Dragon. That shit's really unbelievable good.
Yeah,
I would recommend this.
Red, have you ever played this before or heard of it?
I played it when it was like a week old. I think I did when I was over at a friend's house and he sort of showed me the game, but hearing all the stuff they've added to it over the years, they obviously didn't leave this game to die when it got cease and desisted, and I'm happy to hear that. I've it would feel a bit weird going back to it in a post Streets of Rage 4 world. That's the feeling I get.
I find that quite interesting
But,
because
yeah.
I do think that I would say it is a significant improvement of the universal run and roll. That's the only thing. It's like I kind of wish 4 had that, even though 4 looks like so much better. I wish it did have that for everyone, because that's one of the reasons why a lot of people tend to rag on Streets of Rage 4 Axel, because he's kind of slow. But I mean, they made additions and updates where he could do the rolling flame. It's not that bad. I think he needed to get buffed, which is what they did in the patch. Yeah.
In Streets of Rage 2 remake, they made Streets of Rage 1 and 2 Axel's run. I'm like, why couldn't they do that for Axel and 4?
Yep. So if you want the buff versions of the Streets of Rage 1 characters, they can literally do it all. And they also have like more combos and abilities and weapons.
Yes, they do.
Which is
also
one thing to notice, yeah.
Also, fun fact, for all you homebrews lovers out there, if you still have your Vita, right now there is a Vita port of the Streets of Rage remake, so I would recommend that to download on your Vita and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. Drill, have you ever played this remake?
Well, actually, I haven't. So, but it would be weird going to it after being so used to 4. I should probably give it a try sometime.
I would say for people curious, try it out, see how it is. It's definitely worth the price of admission, or the price of downloading at least, for a playthrough and seeing how it goes, because it is absolutely 100% wild of a game. It's a beast. But anyone else want to talk about the remake before we move on to the next question? Going once? He's like, no. Like, no, fuck that. All right, going once, going twice. Sold to the hooker in red. We're gonna move on to Streets of Rage Revolution, which is the 3D Streets of Rage they showed, and that giant Sega. Let's just be honest, they just dropped themselves on the table and said, look, we're going to give you multiple games, Shinobi, all types of stuff, new Jet Set Radio, and there's a new Streets of Rage in there.
Wait, hold on, Ren. Before we go to that question, there was a bonus question that we didn't mention, or as part of question number 6.
Go on.
Does anyone ever play the game Streets of Kamurocho? If I said it right?
That's the Yakuza-based Streets of Rage.
Yeah, I remember that, because they gave you like a limited time to download it before the crossover ended.
That is correct.
It is essentially Streets of Rage 2, but with a Yakuza skin. You could play as Kiryu, Majima, and the other guy in the purple suit. I forget his name. He's in Yakuza 7 as the main protagonist, but you can play as him. And Ichiban Cortez. That's what I'm gonna call him. You can play.
Don't you mean?
It's very American.
Don't you mean Eric Andre?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say he's a little bit more Pacific Eric Andre, but you could play as him, and you can it's like Streets of Rage 2 reskinned, and I have it on Steam. But the only thing I don't like about it is that I wish it was a full-fledged game, because you could tell Sega did it for some promotional material for Yakuza, because I swear to God, it's like you get to the bar boss and then it ends right there, and you're just playing the game on a loop. You can obviously play with the other three characters, but it is essentially the same loop. They could have, like, I think it's more of a thing where instead of being a crossover, a limited time game, it should have been a game where they just went full fledged and made a 2D Yakuza beat 'em up. That would have been fire. Imagine
Yeah,
switching
I
styles with Kiryu. That would have been awesome, dude.
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Ren. I wish they'd done that because like the potential was there. And granted, yeah, in the day though, it's just Streets of Rage 2, but with Yakuza assets. But like people will still play it. They give us a full title.
Yeah, just drop that
Well,
on the table.
well, Ren, let me give you a brief lesson here. Yakuza Source is in the works, so you may get that dream after all.
I saw that, and I'm definitely curious to see what people will make in the Yakuza engine with their own levels, characters, weapons, styles. That's going to be insane. Just a little shout out for that, because that trailer came out, and I think a lot of people are going to experiment and do something with that. And that is a series I always wanted to kind of talk about, because I did enjoy a lot of the games. But when Source comes out, I will be definitely doing elbow drops on people's heads and stomping them in the tables and slapping them.
It's a great time to be a beat 'em up fans, and it's a great time for beat 'em up fans in general.
Yup, 100%. We're going to move on to the next question, and that's Streets of Rage Revolution. So, like I said, we saw that sizzle reel where they brought back like all the old stuff. This is like Crazy Taxi, everything. They're like, we're going full on fucking crazy.
Sega is back.
Sega is back for real, and they have more Golden Axe, all of that. And Streets of Rage was in there for like a few seconds, and now it has a name. Now we're gonna ask the panel, like, in terms of them making a 3D game, what are the do's and don'ts? Like, what is stuff you want from this game, and what is stuff you don't want them to do? And the first person we're gonna have is Kaneki.
That's a good question. I hope it's a sequel to Streets of Rage 4 for Revolution, but from what I can tell, this is probably a remake. I hope they took the homage and notes from Streets of Rage remake, like from the fan game, and hopefully improved it even more, and maybe we could see Axel Stone punch a guy's head off, or some crazy shit like that. Hopefully, don't turn into another Fighting Force. Please no.
All right, so Wop, have you seen this trailer for the 3D Streets of Rage, and if so, what do you think about it?
It does look pretty cool, I gotta say. But the thing is, my biggest piece of advice would be, for the love of God, do not make it anything like Final Fight Streetwise. And don't get me wrong, I really like Streetwise, but that game is so dated. It's a product of its time, and that game practically sunk the whole Final Fight franchise.
Oh,
So
Didn't they like swear a shit ton in it?
I'm sorry?
Didn't they like swear a lot in it?
they did.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't Cody like a zombie at one point?
Cody was a zombie, yeah, because he took the glow. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I say, I actually really like Final Fight Streetwise. I like the story, I like the gameplay and everything, but it really is a product of its time. It has that whole early 2000s edginess that the DMC remake had also. So I really, really hope that Streets of Rage, this new one, doesn't end up like that.
Yeah, I have to agree. If they do that and just completely like, they take what was established and they really don't care for it in terms of how they did the originals and 4 even, and they decide, hey, we're gonna turn Axel into someone that is a zombie. He is on drugs. He is a crackhead, and now he is fighting for his last dose of methamphetamines. I look. If you turn the game into that, that's gonna be so fucking funny to laugh at and to play through. But yeah, just don't do that where it's like, oh, now the ex cop crackhead is fighting for supremacy and a McDonald's
Three.
sandwich. So please don't.
At that point, the Sega honeymoon will be over for me if that shit happens.
But still, it's in one issue that I have with a lot of 3D beat 'em ups is their persistence to remove modes. Like I didn't like the fact that Double Dragon Neon took out some of the online components for certain versions. So I kind of want that stuff in there. I want the online co-op. I want the local co-op. I want all that stuff taken in because, like I said, a lot of 3D beat 'em ups like to take a lot of modes and shit out, which I don't like. So that's one mistake they could avoid. The next thing is, I guess, how the combat is, because 3D new rules. So I don't expect it to be the 2D side scrolling thing that I love the most, but they have to refine that in a bigger sort of area and space and have those enemies coordinate properly. Which is, and one other thing they could do is, I guess, maybe do 3 players. That'd be cool. To have like more players on screen, maybe 3 or 4, just like Streets of Rage 4. If you have like Parsec going and just go completely ape shit. I don't know if this new engine is going to be able to handle that, but that's a good indicator to stress test and see what you can do. So that's the only thing I really have to say outside of it just being refined and needing to be, really great. But I'm gonna move my question on to Brandon. What do you think of this new Streets of Rage 3D?
I will say I'm very intrigued by it because I think this will be the first 3D Street of Rage game, right? So I don't necessarily have a do's or don't per se yet because I don't think we've seen enough to just say like what it shouldn't do or should do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But to I guess give some a little insight, they need to have as much depth, if not more depth, than what Streets of Rage 4 has to offer. Because it turns out a Streets of Rage game though 4 is like it's a monster mechanically speaking, right? If
Yep.
they cannot compete with that, then in my opinion, the game fails in that department. So they gotta find a way to make the game as fun, if not more fun, than Streets of Rage 4. Because like you mentioned, new dimension, no rules. So they had to find a way, had to get the combo structure for the characters and make it work in a new environment. So like time will tell with that one whether they can nail that or not though. Just I'm hoping they can because I'm not against 3D games, but we live in an age where people are allergic to having 2D games and 3D is the more I guess you say safe bet in terms of getting a new audience, right? So I just hope that Sega that does this game justice the same way Streets of Rage 4 has done the series justice.
Yeah.
That being said, let's say from a graphic standpoint, I do hope the game actually is not cheesy looking, not this weird plastic look that a lot of these 3D reimagined games have. Because that, especially again going back from Streets of Rage 4, how that looked with the shell shading and all that, they have to deliver on that front.
Yeah, to me, it looks exactly like Double Dragon Neon. I'm not even going to lie. If you've seen that game and you look at gameplay of Streets of Rage Revolution, it looks almost identical in graphics, but it's not bad. It's just, as they refine the game more and more, I kind of want to see them do that so it actually looks like pretty beastly. And 3D beat 'em ups aren't the worst thing in the world because there is the idea of your Urban Reigns or the Warriors, which are very good games that I can't shit on. Same for Gahan as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like those games are like the kings of beat 'em ups in my opinion. When it comes to just the sheer depth and magnitude they have. Naturally, those games are a little dated considering they came out like nearly 30 years ago. So here's their chance to come in and take the crown.
Oh yeah, it's an open market, as they say. Nero, what about you? What do you think of Streets of Rage Revolution?
I think Streets of Rage Revolution can be a really, really good idea if they execute it well. I feel like if they implement stuff that they got from like the Yakuza games and like learn stuff and take stuff from like other fighting or other beat 'em ups like God Hand and Urban Reign and probably take some stuff from Virtual Fighter. I feel like it gameplay wise, Streets of Rage Revolution could be the most in depth of any Streets of Rage game, and it'll have like good replayability. As long as they don't make the same mistakes that they made with the other beat 'em ups during the PS2 era, like Beatdown, Fist of Vengeance, Final Fight Streetwise, in terms of like the poor story, as character assassinations of Cody and shit like that. I feel like the game can be really, really good.
Drillbit, it is your turn. What do you think of Streets of Rage Revolution?
No way. It's like full 3D, not 2.5D.
It's full 3D?
Wow. Honestly, you can make character action games good in 3D, but at the same time, how does that work with Streets of Rage, and how do you make it not jank and as in depth as Streets of Rage 4? It just leaves me with more questions than answers, and I do hope it doesn't end up being janky because because 3D beat 'em ups haven't exactly had the best track record. Well, obviously there's DMC and Bayonetta, but that's a different thing.
A different genre. So yeah.
Yeah. All I can hope for is that they're able to have it transitioned well into full 3D and still be just as fun as Streets of Rage 4, and at least allow as much combo variety. Plus, being in 3D means they could do a lot more with the world. Hell, maybe like Yakuza, where you can just pick up objects and then just slam someone into a wall. That would be cool to see.
Yeah, essentially speaking, just don't be like the Cobra Kai beat 'em ups where they are very bland and uninspired. Those are by far just so
They
repetitive.
didn't even try with those.
Yeah, they didn't even
Well,
try, and it looks so much worse than what I expected.
yeah, it really feels like it came out of like the late PS1, early PS2 era. Another example I was going to say was the Turtles in Time remake. If anyone ever played that before it got delisted, that was just a really jank 3D game.
Yeah, the worst thing you could do is it ends up not adding anything to the beat 'em up genre, and it ends up worse off as an idea. Especially in another mistake that a lot of 3D beat 'em ups tend to make is issues with the performance. Like, if it's not running full 60, don't even bother, because that's the first mistake that a lot of people seem to make, and it happened with Cobra Kai as well, where it's like, why does this game feel equivalent to me playing Arkham Knight on Switch? What the fuck is this? So don't do that, and I think you'll be totally fine. Rad, what about you? How do you feel about Revolution?
It looks to be incredibly dynamic. I went back and looked at that trailer before I gave my answer. It's like literally the beginning where Axel is doing this like Ken Master style kick combo. And then you cut to like a rotating 3D camera, and Axel does this like takedown move with like a double fist at the end. It looks to be more of a dynamic game. It's obviously not going to stick to 2.5D side scrolling. We're going to get a third dimension here. A couple of bullet points for a potential future Streets of Rage game. Everybody needs to run, because that's the reason I went back to Cherry so much in Streets of Rage 4, because not everybody can run. Yuzo Koshiro needs to do the music, and I have nothing against T. Lopez and Olivier de Riviere. I think they did most of the music of 4. But Yuzo Koshiro's music is Streets of Rage. And third, I'm spoiled rotten by the depth of Streets of Rage 4. It's not often a beat 'em up has me saying, I think I'll take this character to the lab and see what sort of combos I can do with them, like I'm playing ye old 2D fighting game. I want to see that depth be consistent in a new Streets of Rage game. But I'm really looking forward to the end results. There is no in between with this revolution. It is either going to be the benchmark or it's going to be some gum underneath the bench. So, your move.
Absolutely, 100%. We're going into the next question with the favorite move of the series. I guess I'll go like really quickly because my answer is super simple. It is Grand Upper. Just hitting people with that shit is so phenomenal. It's so fun to do, and the scream as well. I hate that they messed it up in Streets of Rage 3 because he doesn't say it. He says bare knuckle or something like that. Like, what happened to Axel? What, bare knuckle? I was like, okay, no. That I changed the Japanese immediately when I heard that.
Is that the literal translation of the move though? So I guess that's why.
It is, but it's one of those things where it's
Not the
like,
same.
yeah, it's not the same. It doesn't sound right. And
Like saying Shoryuken, but you say Dragon Punch instead.
yeah, Dragon Punch. I was like, oh no, it doesn't have the same. Oof.
Well, I'm not sure. Alan Strider. Yeah, I would agree.
Well, yeah, you have a point, but still, it's one of those things where it's kind of just a bad sound bite. Then the actor, I don't know if he put his all in that one or whatever, but it didn't sound right to me. But
Alan Strider, not Strider.
It sounded like something that an animal mascot would say. Bare knuckle.
Yeah.
it has that higher pitch to it that Axel would never have.
Yeah. But the move itself is just iconic, and I'm glad that 4 acknowledged it, which is literally him saying Grand Upper. So I appreciated that like a lot. Kaneki, how about you? Your favorite move in the franchise?
Well, let's see. Outside of Grand Upper, there are 2 of my favorite moves and specials. From Shiva that he does from 2 and 3, and I guess up until 4. His famous move, of course, is the Final Clash. Whenever I hear that, even as a child, I thought he was saying like Final Flash. Like I thought for a moment they would homage to Vegeta because, you know, the year Streets of Rage 2 and 3 came out. I thought it was a homage to him, but I guess not. Especially because the move is basically like a kick move, a mid-air kick move. And in Streets of Rage 4, they gave Shiva Streets of Rage 3 Shiva an extra special where he basically could do a Raging Demon like Akuma. That was one of the coolest homage they ever did to that character. Those are my favorites.
I was typing in the chat about the Shiva clones. As a matter of fact,
Oh, that's broken.
and we all did that shit on the
That's
playthrough.
ridiculous.
It was like So yeah, the clone move is pretty, like, all his moves and specials in 4 is also honorable mention to me
I'm
because
surprised the game doesn't crash when we do that.
they also nerfed him as well. So sad face.
Don't remind me. That's why I still got the version where he's not nerfed on PC.
But Wop, how about you? What is your favorite move in the Streets of Rage franchise?
I'm sorry, can you pass me for this one? Just in a second. I'm gonna go after the next person.
Sure, no problem. Brando, how about you?
I don't have really much to offer in this conversation, so I'll give you 2 answers. Joke answer is anything Blaze do. We can see our thong.
What the?
But legit answer is Adam's double kick in Streets of Rage 4, where he shoots out his green flames. That shit is a good move and it's swag as fuck.
Yeah, is that the sword strike where he hits the ground and a bunch of green fire just hits everybody?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it's triangle attack. It's one of the specials where he takes away your health. Yeah, he just literally does a double kick that shoots out green flames.
Oh yeah, it is a triangle attack. I was thinking of a special, but yeah, that both moves are also pretty fantastic. He has like a nice style when he hits somebody with his specials.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, did you want to go after Brendan?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't ready before.
It's fine.
Definitely, yeah, the Grand Upper that we all talked about, that one is just iconic and really, really cool. I also find it really funny how It's similar in name to, I believe Cody had a criminal upper, I think it was called.
He did, but he shot tornadoes.
Yeah. I always found it funny how like the two of them had the same name, similar name, but definitely the grand upper. Loads of fun.
Drill bit, it is your turn since Nero's cat has to eat.
Yeah, for me, obviously Grand Upper's iconic, but also Blaze's Kikocho. I don't know what it's called, but that's what I always call it.
And that's
I
exactly
mean,
what
they're
it's
both like
Yeah.
She learned that from Chun Li, didn't she?
No, it's the other way around actually. Chun-Li got it from her.
Oh, okay.
damn. Maybe
There you go.
one day we'll get Streets of Rage versus Street Fighter. Would be funny to see.
Oh, I've been saying for a long time that Adult Mod should make a Final Fight game and actually include the main roster from Street Fighter as well.
Dude, I want them to crossover so bad with Final Fight. You have no
Blaze
idea.
as a DLC crossover. That's how you
Oh,
make
me
money.
too.
You have no
I've
idea.
been waiting for years for Cody and Axel to meet. They didn't do that in Project X Zone 2. That was like that was like one of the biggest wasted opportunities.
And then
Hey, man,
Capcom's
sister.
like, best I can do is a $20 Blaze costume for your avatar.
Oh, that sucks,
But yeah.
man. I really
Yeah.
want Final Fight X Streets of Rage, but you know, is that all you have for this question, Drill?
Yeah.
Well, Rat,
Yeah,
it is your turn.
So, to tell you my favorite special move, I'm going to use a fighting game character as a reference. Ralph Jones. Ralph Jones has this move where he charges forward, knocks you down, punches the shit out of you, like winds up, and
Estelle
does
does
a
it too.
massive explosion punch. If only you could do that in a beat 'em up. And Streets of Rage 4 answered my prayer. Get on the ground! Estelle's tackle, where she knocks you on the ground and like punches you in the face, and then like the final smash at the end. Oh my god, it's so satisfying to hit that move, especially as a combo ender. Like, man, favorite characters. Estelle's like a third place just for that move alone. Holy shit, that is cathartic.
I'm surprised she doesn't end the combo by her last punch being a fucking basically a dynamite, because
It
that's what
might as
Ralph did.
well be. Have you seen those guns?
Yes.
Jeez.
Like dang, she could took Ralph's punch and be like a dynamite punch.
Like when the DLC for 4 dropped and Estelle was confirmed to be one of the playable characters, I was like, finally, and I had no idea what I was in for with her moveset.
So everyone knows Estelle is cool and all, but you know, there was a tournament that we had and people were labbing with her, and during the whole time when I was getting my ass beat and combo out the window, I could only think of one sound bite.
This motherfucker is garbage!
That's the only thing I could think of.
Doing strings.
Doing strings. I was just like, oh my fucking god.
Can't hit combos.
Yeah.
He's throwing strings.
Yeah.
But it's such a good time that like I literally just started picking her up like not too long ago when I was playing before the podcast. So I thought that her moves were interesting, and if they do make like a 5, bring that character back and perhaps more. I think 5 should be like a grandiose game that expands on like everything so far. But we're gonna move on to the next question, and the question is number 9. What are your full thoughts on Streets of Rage 4? I want Kaneki to go first.
So, after the events of Streets of Rage 3 and in terms of fan games, the Streets of Rage remake, one would hope that Sega would eventually make a Streets of Rage 4. 2018, that teaser, or 2019 maybe, that teaser trailer, they gave us a tease of Streets of Rage 4, and everyone lost their fucking shit. And when the game finally came out during COVID, man, did it deliver! Let me tell you, from Streets of Rage to Streets 3 to Streets of Rage 4 is like not only a massive improvement to the beat 'em up genre, but as a Streets of Rage series, like I hope they don't consider downgrade in terms of the depth combos what it offered, the story, for each characters. Um, and especially the modes that they added later on, or even before then, they even had so much replay value to where you unlock more characters. It's like everything you need, especially for a Streets of Rage fan. What else can you add? This is pretty much a perfection beat 'em up game in my opinion. And the fact that it even had training mode down the line, it's like, what can go wrong?
Brandon, what about you? What did you think of Streets of Rage 4?
Quite frankly, like it's probably one of the best games ever made. Like it's seriously a fantastic love letter to the series and to the fans. They did the game justice. And naturally though, not everything's perfect right out the gate. Because Axel was kind of ass at the launch of the game, but they did some good job with buffing characters and making some changes. The one aspect of the game I'm not a fan of really is them nerfing characters, but considering that the game has a PvP type mode, right? I can understand that from that standpoint. But let's be honest here, though. Most people do not play the game for the PvP; they play for the PvE, right? So nerfing characters that ultimately will hinder, your play time for, like PvE. It kind of sucks, though, right? But like, it's nothing breaking in the day, though, because we gonna adapt, we gonna evolve, and play the game as it is.
Buff my
But,
boy
like,
Shiva back.
Yeah, Shiva got unnecessary nerf, but hey, it is what it is, right?
It's
but
like,
the
I will
sorry, go
combo
ahead.
people. He's like, I will combo people in the
He had
corner,
an infinite. It's
and,
like,
and they can do nothing. It's like he's the best dude.
Yeah, but one of my favorite aspects about the game is the soundtrack. Like it's so good. I have it on repeat sometimes. That's something that the game doesn't get enough credit for, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, like even the Mr. X Nightmare DLC with some of the tracks that they made for it exclusively was also like pretty fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, what about you? What do you think of Streets of Rage 4?
If I'm being totally honest with you, I haven't played it yet. It's one of those games where it just passed me by and I never really picked it up.
It is time for a recommendation since it is holiday sales this season.
you better
Oh,
get
absolutely.
it
I've been meaning to buy this game for so long and I just kept like what's the word? Procrastinating on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I just have but I know I meant to buy it like when it first came out, and for whatever reason I just never picked it up. But I've heard so many good things about it and I'm like way overdue. So probably by the next time I listen to this podcast on my own, will have already played it.
What about you, Nero? What do you think of Streets of Rage 4?
Streets of Rage 4 is fucking fantastic. It's probably what got me a hell of a lot more interested in the series. And the fact that they've added like labbing and practice mode and challenge towers, like the Mr. X DLC, I feel like it just boosts the overall fun factor for that game.
It's been a fucking resurgence. Not only did we get like Streets of Rage 4, but we also got the Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game, and it's just both of those games are such a blast to play. Streets of Rage 4 is definitely no exception to the rule. It has a bunch of characters now that you could play with, unlock, and discover their styles. It has tons of replayability, which is very important for a game like this where you're 2D side scrolling and fighting everyone. Yep.
Something I wish Shredder's Revenge did have, even when the DLC came out.
Yeah, a lot of replay value to it. And also you could do weekly sims with the DLC and fight and go on differing like roguelike paths, which is pretty cool. So it lended itself to a lot of going back and getting those S ranks and doing the best you can with those characters, which is pretty cool. It has that addicting vibe to it. And I think one thing that people have obviously said before is the art style being like hand drawn and looking awesome stands out, especially how they do the nightclubs in this game and how the lights will reflect off the sprites. I thought that was fucking amazing with the way they drew it. So it's It's a really good game. Like I said, not the best in spots. I think the final level, I hated the final boss because I just felt it was bland and uninspired when you get to the temple. But it's definitely still a great game regardless of its faults. And the fact that they crammed in so many modes and you could do so much shit and you can fight against other opponents is so fantastic. If they do another one, I definitely want it to be hand drawn and just go right for it, as well as like maybe Revolution accommodating this as a 3D side series. I think that'd be the best compromise.
Actually, a quick fun fact of the final boss in Streets of Rage 4. Later on, you think the boss was, if people think the boss was, well, I wouldn't say challenging, was too easy, they buffed him.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that the balance updates they buffed the boss, so it's a little bit more harder, as well as like, well, I understand them also kind of giving the Streets of Rage 1 characters a little bit more oomph to their punches, but yeah, that's why we bought up the remake, because there are things they could have done to make those characters a lot more versatile with moving around, but it's whatever, because you have like so many people to play with anyway that you could find somebody that you like eventually. Drill, what about you? What did you think of Streets of Rage 4?
Oh yeah, definitely like one of the best beat 'em up games ever made. And they added in a ton of content afterwards. Honestly, it kind of made me disappointed that Shredder's Revenge didn't get the same amount of support. Like what? They gave us 2 extra characters and a mode that you could probably beat in like an hour.
How much you want to bet Nick has something to do with this? Because Sega was not necessarily the funding partner of Doltmont, but it definitely had a helping hand, right? Which I'm betting you that Nick probably didn't give them enough funds or to say, cut the cord here, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Always
probably
fucking Nick, bro.
definitely a factor. Like it just felt like Streets of Rage 4 always had a lot more replay value and support.
I heard that.
But
Nick.
Streets of Rage 4 is still up there for one of the best beat 'em ups. I don't know if it would be the best beat 'em up ever made, but that's debatable.
I would say maybe on the top list. It definitely needs a spot up there. That's how I would kind of treat it, in my opinion. Rad, what about? Oh, good.
I was gonna say like on the same tier, something like NK Shaolin Monks.
Well, yeah. If you had a top list of best beat 'em ups of all time, it has to go up there along with MK, because Ed Boon is not servicing the co-op fans right now, and that pisses me off. But
they'll just give you like they'll just give you a Twitter poll saying, "Hey, you guys want to remaster?" and then nothing ever happens.
No, they rather milk you with crystals and not fixing their fucking game and crossplay after Tekken. I'm good.
Bro, that's a whole nother rant I could do about the fumble of Fire and Ice, because we were so close and yet so far. Holy fuck, man. But let's get back on a positive note. Rad, how about you? What did you think of Streets of Rage 4?
I will borrow a quote from Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Never in my life have I needed something so much and never known until I received it. Streets of Rage 4 adds so many new modes, adds a depth of combos and fighting that hadn't really been seen in beat 'em ups. It has wonderful music, especially the music included by T. Lopez in the DLC. They brought back the characters from Streets of Rage 1 through 3. And I don't mean just, they're returning. They brought back Adam Hunter, made him a playable character. No, these characters are as is. They have the sounds, they have the moves. It's just, people say it's one of the greatest beat 'em ups ever. Yeah, I say that the people behind this, Lizard Cube, Guard Crush, they didn't make a new Streets of Rage game. They made a new yardstick for the genre.
You know what? I rock with that 100%. If there is a blueprint for what 2D beat 'em ups got right in terms of a release, this would be the one right here.
I can't wait for them to see how they do Shinobi. Because from
Dude,
the art style, it looks like they're doing it.
that game's gonna make me fucking bust. I need that game now.
Oh,
Because
Shinobi's gonna be so freaking awesome.
it looks. That's what I pointed out during the recording. I'm like, hold on, this looks like a similar style. If they're doing this game, I already know it's gonna be like super fucking awesome. So I honestly can't wait for that either.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be Shinobi if it wasn't ultra hard, though.
I would, Streets of Rage 4 was getting kind of tough at the end, so I wouldn't doubt their ability at this point. I would say like let them cook and see what they can do. I do expect some punishing levels later on, especially probably like during the midsection of the game. So, if it's still super punishing, then I fear that a lot of gaming journalists is going to be very upset about that, which is going to be fine. So we're moving on to the last question, and the last question is, how would you rank the entire series given what you played so far? And the first person we'll go with is Rat.
Last in every question, but the first here. Okay. On the spot. I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday because I got a bit in a Streets of Rage mood. He played Streets of Rage 4 with his uncle for the first time. And I was thinking to myself, for every good thing that Streets of Rage 4 did, Streets of Rage 2 is just so classic and timeless. To me, 4 is at the top, but 2 is a very close second place, like fingertips on the gold medal. And then probably Streets of Rage Remake. I haven't played enough of whatever the updated version is, so my mind could change on a dime. Then, honestly, Bare Knuckle 3. Because I don't like a lot of the stages, but I do like the gameplay improvements. We didn't mention it. The meter that they added for your special move.
And Rad has officially roboted into the great beyond.
No.
I guess until he comes. Oh, there you go.
Am I still here?
You're alive.
Yes.
It was going to happen at least once. Okay, so I'll just do by number: 4, 2, remake, 3, and 1 at the bottom, just because of its age and how much the other sequels have leapfrogged over it.
Drillbit, what about you? How would you rank the entire franchise based on what you played?
Yeah, well, I haven't actually beaten 1 and 3 or played 2 to completion, so it'd be 4, 2, and then 1 and 3 are just left unranked since I haven't played them. But I do want to get to them someday. Granted, I'll probably just play the Japanese version of 3 instead of suffering through the American one.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is gonna be kind of tough. I'll do best to worst. All right, I would say number 1 will probably be Streets of Rage Remake. Now, I love 4 to death, and that would be the second one, the runner-up to it. They're both top tier echelon games for this franchise that you should play, but I feel like the remake has so much customization that it cannot be denied. And then I go with 4. 4 has a lot of characters, a lot of modes, a lot of replayability, which is very equally important as well. For Streets of Rage, definitely a tighter combo system as well, because the amount of thought that they put into how these moves link and juggle people in OTG is ridiculous. You can do some crazy ass combos, only made better with the fact that now they decided to put in the new patch where you could do new special moves, and that's also super awesome. So like I said before, this game is absolutely ridiculous in terms of combo potential. Then I will move on to Streets of Rage 2. Iconic, warped the series into a juggernaut, in my personal opinion. It's the basis of what the games needed to be going forward, with just how fun and amazing the concept was for beat 'em ups and how tight the gameplay was. Then I would move on to Streets of Rage 3. It's not better than 2, due to everything that Rat said that I agree with, like stages being too long and drawn out and frustrating, especially construction site. And then just I don't know, the music is definitely a downgrade in my opinion. I ranted a little bit about that when I was playing it. I was like, it's not as good as 2, but the combat is incredible. It feels like everything else I hate it about the game except for the general gameplay, which is still super great, and that's even better than 2, but everything else is not. And looking at it as a whole package, it kind of is under 2 in a degree, which is why I put it here. But still a fun game, overall enjoyable time. As for bottom of the barrel, I have to go with the first one. It's a symptom of age. It didn't age well. Bosses that will completely KO you in the corner. Shit that don't work. Losing so much life, falling into a pit. It's even worse than Streets of Rage 4, where yeah, it's annoying you fall in, you lose health, but I'm talking like 50% life. That's ridiculous. That game is a true nuisance. I don't know how I beat it the first time as a kid. I must have just sat there and went through it like super hard. But fucking hell, dude. It's if you want to be frustrated, by all means go back and experience the joy of that game, and I put that in air quotes because you will not be having joy. You will be experiencing pain, and pain absolute, when you play that game. But hey, I mean, it's a great basis for the next game that came. It's sort of like the Street Fighter 1 of Streets of Rage, where it's like the first game.
No, don't start.
Oh my god.
Streets of Rage 1 is actually playable compared to Street Fighter 1.
Well, I
Don't
mean,
start.
We don't talk about Street Fighter 1.
No. The thing with my argument though is the age and nature of it. Now I know Street Fighter 1 is garbage, but the thing is that going back retroactively and playing that game compared to the other ones, it didn't age well, fam. It's first game syndrome, absolutely, and like I said, it might be playable, but you will witness pain, and I'd rather not play either. When it comes to my opinion. So next up is Brandon, since he wanted to go next.
Hey yo, I'll make mine kind of quick as possible. So my favorite is I'm gonna keep it between the mainline games, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have not played remake, no experience with it, so no comment on that one. Or I haven't played Bare Knuckle 3, so no comment on that one as well. That being said, so my favorite is Streets of Rage 4, for the simple fact that like everyone else be saying, like I said before, the depth, the love, and care in that game is just amazing. The amount of playable characters you have, literally from old games, get sprite characters in 4, fantastic. Like the replayability, especially now with the new DLC, fucking amazing. Like it's finite, but I enjoy myself every single time. Next is Streets of Rage 2, and that speaks for itself. It's a certified hood classic. Like no other Streets of Rage game, even if 3 maybe had better gameplay, came close to it before 4 came out, of course, right? 2 is just so much fun that I could play the game almost every time whenever I power up on PS3 and just play it casually. Fantastic game. And this is going to be coming from least experienced games I played, so 3 and 1. I won't rank 3 over 1 for the same reasons why Renegade list is. Like, 1 is super dated. Like, super dated. Right? So, like, that's all I can say for that one. And as everybody else pointed out with 3, is that the difficulty is pretty bad in the North American version. Like, unnecessarily hard. I know it's like a common trend back in the day where the North American version is harder than its original counterpart because of rental, because of X, Y, and Z, and other bullshit like that. Thank God we're out of that era, because even in the PS2 era, certain companies like Capcom kept that restriction into some other games. So yeah, that's my order: 4, 2, 3, 1. Best or worst.
Kaneki, what about you? What do you feel about this best to worst ranking of Streets of Rage? What is your list?
Since people really describe most of these games on the list, I'll do this as quickly as possible of how I rank them. Streets of Rage 2, in my list, I will always rank it as number 1, despite Streets of Rage 4 and remake having more replay value than even the Streets of Rage 2, but it's just the atmosphere, the music, the gameplay. Like, it's an all-time classic, and I have a bias with only that game. It's like I can't pick it like a number 2 or 3 spot. But in between Streets of Rage 4 and Streets of Rage Remake for second place, I would definitely pick Remake out of 4. Not because not because it has improved the gameplay from the original series, but it also had more replay value at the time than even Streets of Rage 4 right now, and lets you customize your moves, lets you kill people in half, etc., etc., and create your own levels and stuff. Yeah, that's something I hope they would do in the next Streets of Rage series. And then it would be Streets of Rage. So remake would be in second. Streets of Rage 4 would be third. And since I only played the American version, unfortunately, of Streets of Rage 3, I would put that as last place. Streets of Rage 1, yes. Gameplay wise, compared to 2, Streets of Rage 1 did not age well, but the reason why I don't rank Streets of Rage 1 last, because the atmosphere of the stages and the music will always be Streets of Rage 3, outside of the Japanese stage where you fight like three shinobis, I want to say, at once. Those 3 samurai armor dudes in Streets of Rage 3. Yeah, outside of that stage, it's like Streets of Rage 1 beats them in the stages and the music.
What about you, Nero?
4, 2, 3, and 1.
And that's your full answer?
Yep.
You know what? That's fine. Straight to the point immediately. All right, we're gonna move on to the last person. It's a fucking clown was posted, which is Nikki. How would you rank the Streets of Rage games that you have played thus far?
Well, I definitely want to echo the sentiments between the first and the second games. Definitely based on what you said about the first game, how it really is a product of its time. How it's extremely frustrating, and for me, like I said, I've never beaten the game, but always got so close, and it was always those 2 dominatrix with the whips. How as soon as those whips hit you, they took like half of your freaking life away, and that just honestly just pissed me off so much that it makes me not even want to try playing it again. I mean, of course, I will pick up the game every time I get the chance, and I enjoy playing it. I'm not going to say I guess I like torture or something, but I only played the first 2 games, so of course, and I'm also going to echo the sentiment about the second game as well, because just the atmosphere, the gameplay, how it improved everything from the first game and built itself off of that one. So because I only played the first 2, I'm going 2 and 1.
All right, and I think it is a wrap for this podcast. We had fun talking about Streets of Rage. If Revolution comes out and we're really digging it, then we will definitely talk about it. It's a WAP, yeah. As I see that right there. So we're gonna do
It's a WAP.
It's a Whopper. It's a Whopper burger. We're gonna do our outros. Mr. Kaneki, where can we find you?
Well, you can only find me on YouTube and Twitter, known as Google World Order. And I only got one thing to say. Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year, you degenerate fucks.
All right, so I'm going to do my outro. You can find me on YouTube, Renegade Operative. You can find me on Twitch, Renegade_Operative. You can find me on X videos, X Whopping at Ren Operative. You can find me on there, Ren Operative _. And I will be just, I don't know, randomly streaming, I guess, after this while trying to upload this podcast. Merry Christmas, and Street Fighter 1 can suck my cock. There you go. All right, next person is Nikki. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me up your ass and around the corner. No, I'm kidding.
What the? All right.
You can find me on OnlyFans. Just kidding. That too.
Okay then. $9.99
but
for
for
feet,
real.
people. You know what it is.
I gotta get a pedicure first. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter. Or sorry, I keep calling it Twitter. I don't care about this X Twitter thing. Let's see. You can find me on Twitter. You can also find me on Twitch at Strapping Young Lady Gaming. You
Twitch.
can also find me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I hate Twitch. Go on.
Oh no, that's okay. You can also find me on YouTube at Strapping Young Lady Gaming, and I'm also on Instagram with the same name. So maybe see you around on the interwebs. Also, Merry Christmas and have a happy New Year. I hate you all.
I bet you do after what Brandon said, where he thought you said strap on, but you know what? We're gonna move right past that. So, before this gets too degenerate, Nero, what is your outros for today, sir?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch under the same name.
He
Why are you dying?
almost had a hernia. Don't worry about it.
I will cough too if I try to say the word Twitch. Yep, there it is.
Don't worry, I'll put a censor bar right there on my titties so you can see them. All right, Drill, how about you?
You
Where
don't
can we
want to see
find?
that shit.
How you do? Look at my
Yeah,
titties.
you can find me. I was saying you can find me on Twitter at Drovit777. That's really where I'm only active on, at least at the moment. That could change in the future, but depends.
You'll find them on OnlyFans at feet pics like 777.
Randy Marsh beat him to it. I mean, what?
Man, fuck yeah.
And rat, last but not least, where can you find yourself?
You can find me on Twixter, which is what I'm calling it because it's the cool name. You can find me on Twixter at the Radrad, and you can find my YouTube gaming channel, Radrad's Rad Games, where completely unrelated to beat 'em ups and fighters. I just played through Pokemon Blue in honor of the 25th anniversary of its American release. And since another anniversary came up, I'm playing through 1993's Doom.
Okay,
And
old
on
school.
that note, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a punchin', kickin' Happy New Year. We are in a renaissance of beat 'em ups and fighters, and I hope that it continues into the new year and beyond.
Well, before we end this podcast, everyone knows that January is going to be Tekken time. At the end of that, I could not be any more excited. We definitely will be talking about that game in the future, as well as we're talking about Marvel, which is the next Buster Wolf. So look forward to that. Might bring some surprises here or there, but ultimately, and anime fighting game discussion as well. That's gonna happen too. So you get like 2 Buster Wolves for the price of 1. But that's gonna be a fun time talking about your Naruto Storms and all that jazz, and hopefully you guys like that when those come out. This is the Infinite Ammo Syndicate, where you're signing out. It's Naruto. I don't care what his name is. He likes ramen. So
Naruto, motherfucker.
No, it's not bad as Giku, believe me. We'll see you guys next time. Hopefully I don't say that when we talk about Budokai 4 coming out as well. And have a Merry Christmas. See you later.
Good night, everyone. Perkele.
Where's my local multiplayer Bandai?
KYS, man, that's what you need to do.
Please put Goku, Super Saiyan Rose, and Sparking Blast. I need that shit immediately.
I'm sure they will.
They have to.
Everyone's gonna be in that game,
It's
though.
just,
You know it.
were you in Super? You're probably a shoo-in for this one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, please.